Welcome ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to take a look at the Magicka Sorcerer non-pet build for the Summerset chapter. I do have a written guide on my website, link in the description below, and keep in mind I also do have a pet build on my website. And also on YouTube obviously. Anyway, so you can see our stats are pretty neat. We are running the Apprentice Mundustone. Keep in mind spell damage will go up to like 4k because we run Siroria, but more about that later. Apprentice Mundustone. If you don't have enough penetration, make sure to run the lever. So for example, if you don't have any Alcast in Cloud Rest, you probably want to run to lever Mundustone. Just keep that in mind. Buff food wise, you want to run Clockwork Citrus Fillet or Witch Mother's Potent Brew. This is best because it gives us so much magic recovery. And a sense of spell power, which is also nice. Gives us Major Sorcery, Prophecy, and restores a lot of Magicka. Plus, it holds for 47 seconds, and the cooldown is 45, so that's really cool. In terms of race, High Elf, Dark Elf are the two best choices. And you also could be a Breton, for example. But I do like High Elf the most because it gives me 9% Magicka recovery, 10% max Magicka, and Flame, Frost, and Shock damage. But once again, High Elf, Dark Elf, there is almost zero difference. If you want, you can be a Vampire for the supernatural recovery. You get 10% more magic recovery. Just keep in mind, you will take more flame damage. Now in terms of sets, on my website I have different gear setups listed. So this is just one possible option. And if you would like to know more about setups and so on, I do have a Discord channel, which you can Furycraft about Sorcs, etc. It's also linked in the description, and please make sure to not forget to subscribe. So on this setup, like always, we use Siroria. Now, why is this set so good? You see, it gives me spell damage, minor slayer, max Magicka, and 600 permanent spell damage if you can stay in the circle. This set has an extra Magicka bonus, more than most other sets, so that's why it's so strong. And the thing about this is, you see, when I'm gonna be fully buffed, it's gonna take a while because it stacks up to 20. It's going up and up and up because I'm staying in this thing. So mobility is a little bit tricky. You need to get used to it. You need to know when you can move to the next position to try to keep up the buff. Otherwise it could be very, like you will lose all the things basically. Now we sit at pre-8. Always if we do a light attack here, 4.4k spell damage in total. If you have your weapon damage enchantment procced and Siroria on full power. That's quite strong. Again, you could run, for example, Julianos instead, if you don't like this set, but it is very strong, and I think it's just very important to get used to this deck and how to move around with it. Even if you only get half the uptime, it's already stronger than most other sets. The next set that we run is basically Acuity still. Now Acuity got changed. When you deal direct damage, you have a 15% chance to gain. Before it was when you deal damage. Now, why do I run it on this non-pet sword but not everywhere else? The answer to that is simple, it's called Force Pulse. Now, this has 3 direct damage hits. So it's very, like, you see it insta-procced. With Force Pulse, Mechanical Acuity is still worth running. Very much so, actually. If you prefer another set, go with another set. And as you can see, I have 5 Siroria and 5 Acuity on the body. And then on the front bar, I have Asylum Perfected Inferno stuff. Now, if you would like, you can still front bar Acuity and run a monster set. But I do think the Asylum stuff fits the theme of like non-pet mech Sorcs very much. And it also helps them do a lot of damage. Plus, it keeps the concussion uptime up and so on. Which is very important in raids and dungeons in general. That's this. Back bar, Maelstrom Inferno with infused weapon damage, like always. In terms of traits, all divines. And I have a health glyph here, and everywhere else I just stack and Magicka enchants. You want to run 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy. If you can rearrange the pieces, try to get the heavy chest if possible, obviously. 3 arcane with spell damage. Now you could technically run 2 arcane, 1 bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty is really strong, but for now I actually do recommend running 3 arcane, especially in crowd rest, because bloodthirsty is useless if you keep wiping before execute. Okay, it's very important. I might change one of those jewelry to bloodthirsty at some point. Once again, the asylum stuff works very good together with the force pools and acuity, because every second force shock cast applies burning, concussion and chilled, which is very good. Mostly concussion, because concussion deals when an enemy is concussed, he gets 8% more damage, and the burning fire status effect just deals a lot of damage in general. That's a gear setup. Once again, this is just one option, there is more available. 48 Thaumaturge, 52, 16, 30, 56, 48, 47, 37, 49, 75, 42, 49, 49, 48, 23, 81. This is a pretty basic red CP setup. I do have a trial red CP setup for each trial on my website. And keep in mind, spell erosion, you need to calculate yourself how much penetration you actually have in your group. So you might want to put more or less into here. In terms of passives, you want all class passives, destruction staff passives, light armor, heavy armor, juggernaut just to get 2% more health because we use 1 heavy piece, fighter's guild, banish the wicked, mage's guild, you want all. You want Magicka, like this here is most important one because it gives you 2% more max Magicka because we use inner light here. Searching is not necessary. Now with this setup, if you run the asylum stuff, do not use elemental weapon. If you want to run elemental weapon on this setup, you want to front bar acuity and run a monster set. Undaunted, high elf passives, or like just the racial passives in general, and then medicinal use, so we get the 100% potion uptime, which is very important. Potions make up for so much damage, guys. You need to really get this passive. Now in terms of abilities, this is a pretty standard setup. I think NDS came up with this, like liquid front bar. If you want, check him out. I will put a link to his YouTube channel into the description. You have liquid lightning front bar. This is just a very nice dot, AoE dot actually, and it probably deals, it's one of the strongest single target abilities as well. Crystal frags, we only use this if this actually procs. So when I use ability, you hear this ching, and then you can shoot it, or you get the circles around your hand, you see? Those crystals, so you know it's instant proc. We only use this if we get the instant proc. Casting any other magic ability has a 35% chance of causing your next crystal fragments to be instant. Deal 10% more damage and cost 50% less. Other than that, this is our spammable force pools. You want to weave this as much as possible, especially if you have the asylum stuff. Inner light for more max magicka. Bound Ages for again more max magicka. This got changed. You don't necessarily need to slot this on both bars anymore, but obviously you still get the 8% max magic on both bars, so I still would recommend it. Fury Rage, this is our Destro ulti. I recommend using this in most situations, especially trash fights, it hits so hard. Back bar, Blockade of Fire. This buffs our Maelstrom stuff, or the Maelstrom stuff buffs our light attacks with blockade. Your light and heavy attacks deal an additional 1.3k damage to enemies in your wall of elements. That doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, your light attacks are going to hit a lot harder because we run a full light attack rotation. Haunting Curse, now you want to recast this every second rotation. I will show you the rotation in a second anyway. Deals a lot of damage, so it's a must have. Harness Magicka, you want to have a shield so you can protect yourself from a lot of incoming damage. Again, Inner Light, Bound Ages for more max Magicka, and then we have the Storm Atronach. I do like this one because Charge lightning synergy is very effective in a raid, so this can help a lot. If you don't want this, what you can do, you can use Shooting Star on the front bar and put Zerg ulti or the Fury Rage on the back bar. Because if you have Shooting Star on the front bar, you will get 2% more max Magicka. You just need to make sure to have one Destruction Staff ability slotted because of Ancient Knowledge. Flame Staff increases your damage down with single target abilities by 8%, so you really want this. And a lot of people actually ask me, why do we use Shock Staves on the pet build and Fire Staves on this build? The pet build has a lot more AoE damage in general, and we do a heavy attack rotation, so you want Lightning Staves. This here is a light attack rotation, and you have like Force Pulls, Crystal Frags, and just the status effects that are all counting a single target. The Fire Staves will be more beneficial here. Yeah, maybe I forgot to talk about this infused flame damage enchant, and here also infused weapon damage. Now why do we slot Liquid Lightning on the front bar? Basically the Asylum weapons have one problem. When you apply this, he gets the status effects, right? After twice. And now the problem is, if you use this and you immediately weapon swap. If you weapon swap before Force Pulse impacts, it will not apply the status effects. That's the problem with this thing. So that's why before we weapon swap, we use Liquid Lightning and then this. Okay. That's the main thing. Other than that, there is not really a lot in terms of skills that you can do or that is like helpful. It's mostly really keeping Liquid Lightning up, Blockade and the Haunting Curse, and then you just weave Force Pulls and Crystal Fragments with the ulti obviously. Now when we look at the rotation, it is pretty simple once you get used to it. All you want to do, drop your Liquid, then the Blockade, Haunting, and then you weave Force Pulls with Crystal Fragments. Force Pulls with Crystal Fragments. If Crystal Fragments procs, you use it instantly. When Blockade reaches about 1 second, you want to press Liquid again, weapon swap, light attack, Blockade, and every second rotation the Haunting Curse. That's the thing with this setup. But just to quickly showcase you the rotation, how it actually can look when we do it fast. And every second rota the Haunting Curse. So the rotation is quite simple. It is a static rotation that I just showcased. It's on my website. If you want a dynamic rotation, for example, you want to keep up Haunting Curse more because every second rotation, like it drops down for a little bit, so you could weapon swap earlier. But in the end, that's up to you. Static rotation is easier to use because you always do the same thing. It's just Force Pulls and use Crystal Frag whenever he procs. Okay. And with this build, like you can reach between 45 to 50k deeps. If you want any DPS numbers or Comet parse, just join my Discord. People have a lot, like they post a lot of parses there. Anyway, I think the rotation was clear. Like it didn't, in terms of rotation, the build did not change. It's still the exactly same. It's just we changed a little bit the gear setup around. And once again, if you don't want this gear setup, you can still use the old one. It's also good. I just really recommend getting Zeroria. I hope everything was explained as well, like really good. I do have different gear setups on my site. Keep that in mind. If you don't have trial gear, there is also other stuff. Please make sure not forget to subscribe. If you have any questions or just comments on the build, comment section down below. Thanks for watching and have a juicy day. Cheers.